And joining me now is Dmitry Alperovitch. He is the executive chairman of Silverado Policy Accelerator, a DC-based geopolitical think tank focused on national, cyber, and energy security issues. Dmitry, you know Russia so well. We don't know the cause of the plane crash. But what was your initial reaction to Prigozhin's death?
Well, you know, I was troubled by this narrative that emerged very quickly, that this was just revenge served by Putin, because having watched Putin over the last 20 years, I know that he likes his revenge served cold, and this was not even remotely cold, maybe just barely not scolding, just 2 months after the mutiny. And there was a terrific Wall Street Journal story that came out last night that really, I think, helps to explain the cause of this, that this wasn't, as Michael Corleone said once in The Godfather, personal. It was strictly business. And what happened is that after his mutiny, I think the message was sent to Prigozhin that you have to divest of your interests, particularly in Africa, where he had this Wagner company deal with dictators all over the continent, mine resources like precious stones and oil and gas in countries as ranging as Sudan and Central African Republic and Mali and elsewhere. And what we know now is that Putin and his cronies were trying to take away, trying to muscle in on that business, and Prigozhin resisted. So after he staged this mutiny against the defense ministry and confronted Putin in June, he not only didn't go away into the sunset, but he kept trying to keep his business, and that was a step too far.
You know, Dmitry, it seems awfully unusual that he was so comfortable, so confident, I mean, perhaps after showing up at that African summit in St. Petersburg with Putin not that long ago, that he was coming from Moscow. So he was in, not that all of Russia is not, Russian airspace is certainly not Putin territory, but he was going back to St. Petersburg, where I'm told by U.S. officials he's felt very comfortable. It was his home base for so long. That's where he met Vladimir Putin, became known as his chef after just being a small-time caterer, and then was coming in this last flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Did that surprise you?
No, he never actually left. So a lot of people assume that he went to Belarus as the supposed deal was worked out between him and President of Belarus, Lukashenko, and Putin after the mutiny. But he never actually went to Belarus except for a very short period of time. He remained in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that I knew, but that most recently that he was in Moscow. So presumably
he's
was
been
in Kremlin's reach. Yeah.
Yeah, he was shuttling in and out of Moscow constantly. And in fact, Putin, in his sort of condolence speech yesterday, said that he was meeting with senior government officials while he was in Moscow.
That's just remarkable. And then was spending most of his time in St. Petersburg, where he clearly felt safe. But interesting that if this journal reporting is correct, and it makes a lot of sense that it was all about money because there were billions to be made in Africa, he was making that money, the diamonds, the minerals, the uranium that he hoped to get, the way they were probing into Niger for opportunities, having not penetrated there previously before the so-called coup, which the U.S. has not yet called a coup for a lot of reasons of humanitarian aid and other security aid. But, you know, it's just remarkable.
You're exactly right, Andrea. And I have to say, like, the one critical thing to understand in Putin is that he's not really running a country. He's running a massive mafia state. And it's often, if not always, about money.
And just finally, how brazen this was. Russian airspace, clearly, you know, a worldwide focus on this. Every spy agency, the Brits, ours, everybody is going to be trying to find out what they can about the circumstances of the so-called crash. And the fact that it was, you know, a catastrophic event. This was not some small mechanical failure.
Well, just like in The Godfather, sending messages is important, not just to Prigozhin, obviously, he's dead now, but to any of his associates and any others that may think that Putin does not have ultimate control, and the Kremlin doesn't have ultimate control of what business is allowed to be continue to be held by oligarchs, or what business is going to be taken by the Kremlin because it decides that it wants it.
Dmitry, it's so great to talk to you. Dmitry Alperovitch, who knows the Russian account so well. Thank you very much.